Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching us from. It's another beautiful morning here at DGTV with the segment Neurodiaries, which basically puts spotlights on different neurodevelopmental conditions. Now, today is another beautiful day to learn, so I hope you're ready with your notebook and a pen to be able to note down some of the very important aspects that you're going to learn today. So, my name is Effie Oworo Otieno, together with my lovely guest,
Esther Wamai, and we are very excited to host yet another segment of the Neurodiaries.
Amazing. To introduce, I'm going to let our guest introduce himself. Over to you, Mr. Jimmy.
Thank you, Effie and Esther. My name is James Karanja, and I'm a developmental educator working with young people with special needs. I'm also the vice chair of an organization called Differently Talented Society of Kenya. Thank you.
Okay, very good. While we are still at the introduction, Jimmy, we really want to congratulate you. We are aware you are a recipient of a very prestigious awards, and this is the International Student of the Year Award 2021 and the Academic Excellence 2021 Award from Flinders University, Australia. So kindly tell us more about this award.
Thank you so much, Esther. Yes, last year I finished my master's degree. I was pursuing a degree in Master's of Disability Policy and Practice degree at Flinders University in Australia. And at the end of it, I emerged the top international student, the first African to have that achievement. And also, in terms of academics, I was the best. And this is an award that I feel belongs to the Kenyan community with disabilities, because they are the people who have inspired me to be where I have been and to work hard and to want to know more about disability.
Interesting. All right. Now, today's topic is transition planning for children with special needs. Now, if it's a parent that is watching us from right up at home, I'm sure you ask yourself questions such as, what would my child do? What is the future that my child holds? So today we are going to break it down into transitioning to adulthood, which tends to be a challenge to young people, especially with special needs. So today you're going to be guided on how you're meant to make choices around future living arrangements, education, and probably employment. All right, now to get us off with this, what is transition planning?
Okay, thank you, Effie. First of all, what is transition? Transition is that preparation for a person to move from being a child to that life of being an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So you're moving this person from the protected life of a child now to be an adult, where they are expected to be dependent and autonomous to be in charge of their own life.
Okay.
And so transition planning basically is equipping the person with the skills they need as they prepare to move from being a child to an adult.
All right.
All right, very good. So having understood what transition planning is, probably you can tell our viewers, why is it an important process, especially for children with special needs or disabilities?
Yes, so planning is good, even when it comes to money. You have a budget so that you know how to spend your money. And with transition planning, you are able to prepare this young person well to cope with life. So transition planning is a critical process that helps to get this person the skills that they need to cope in life. So you are able to bring this person early enough so that they get those skills. For example, you want to teach this person not just academic skills, but also you look at what the dreams do this person have. Because we all have dreams. And how can you live those dreams? How can you reach those dreams? So in this case, you are equipping this person with the right skills, and it takes time. So when you plan, you are likely to come up with skills that align to the interest, ability of this young person. And also for people with disability, you cannot wait until the time they are about to finish school that is when you start thinking about transition planning. It can't work
Yeah.
because it's a process for them. And in our case, we want to prepare the young person in a way that will be effective so that this person can cope with adult life. Yes.
Okay. I love the fact that you brought the aspect of starting early. So now to ask you, how early should the transition planning start?
Yes. So when we come to disability, we always talk about early intervention.
Okay.
And why we have early intervention is because we want better outcomes. It means you bring the services or the kind of interventions that this child needs so that you're able to have positive outcomes in future. So with transition planning, actually ideal age is 14 years.
Okay.
You don't wait until this person is 18. That's when you start thinking, oh, in Kenya, being 18, one becomes an adult. So this is the time I start planning. So early transition planning is very critical because it helps to achieve better outcomes in the independent or the post-school life of this young person.
All right. Very, very important information here and topic. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is that probably this is a very foreign concept because I don't think our schools are adequately planning for the transition of our learners. And I'm even thinking, even for the typical learners, is it an intentional process? So back to the children with the special needs, because I feel this is an area where there is a gap.
Yeah.
So is it something probably that needs a lot of sensitization, especially among school leaders and parents, so that this process can start as early as possible and we are not caught up with time? What's your take on that?
Thank you, Esther. Transition planning is a critical process. And in most cases, because I have been a teacher in our schools, and I can tell you it's something that people don't take it seriously. And that's why when the child is about to finish the school, where they're studying, now the parents come, they don't know what to do next. And this is a common challenge we have in Kenya, where many parents are now coming to say, my child is about to finish school or has been in this school for a long time. We want to know what next. So it's a critical process because with proper transition planning, you always have the answer, what next? But without proper planning, it means you don't have the answer. You are actually caught not prepared. It's something that even the teachers actually find themselves in. So the parent steps in school and asks them, yes, my child is about to graduate, but where will they go from here? So with proper transition planning, you are able to have the answer for what next in my child's life. And of course, the teachers and parents and other stakeholders come together to come up with the right program. And I really encourage schools and of course the families to think about transition planning from early life of the child, so that when the child is still young, you already know what their interests are, so that you can start preparing and having the right skills to support this child.
All right. It's great for, again, you mentioned that it's proper for parents to identify their children's strength from early stages. So as we talk about transition planning, we realize that transition mostly happens between, let's say, high school, now moving to now the college life. What are some of the challenges that come with transition planning in terms of preparing for adulthood?
Okay, there are many challenges. First of all, I must say we have different disabilities, for example. And I have focused a lot on autism. The autism, a child who is autistic tend to experience specific challenges, for example. And they have issues with communication, interaction, and even the social skills. So you realize that autism symptoms make it very difficult to prepare for transition. Lack of skills. Sometimes teachers may not have the skills, and transition skills in this case. And ask some teachers, what are you doing about the transition of the child? They may not have those adequate skills. And on the other hand, opportunities for transition. So the question is, where would my child go? So we don't know. We don't know what opportunities are there. We don't know what services are there. We don't know what supports are there. These are some of the challenges. And of course also the resources. Sometimes in terms of financial resources, parents may not have adequate financial resources because, again, transition also involves financial input. So limited finances can also be an issue. And of course the anxiety. A transition causes anxiety. This could even bring conflicts in the family, where both the family is not sure what next. And it brings sometimes tension even with the family. And I have seen that from my experience. Yes.
All right, very good. So I think still addressing the issue of the challenges with transition planning, I'm also wondering how adequate is the curriculum for learners with special needs in preparation for the students for that transition? Because I imagine if it's about lack of skills, is it a problem with the curriculum, and how do we address this?
Yes, actually I would say our curriculum sometimes is too academic. And you see, with the transition, you are looking at the whole child. It's not just one aspect of the child. So the curriculum tends to just focus on, yes, you're going to do KCP after this stage, then you're going to do KCSE, but it never looks at critical skills that are very important in transition. For example, self-determination skills, which are skills that help to identify the personal goals of this young person and works towards achieving those goals. So I don't know, and I haven't really seen our curriculum actually talking about such skills, self-determination skills, talking about problem solving, for example, making decisions, setting goals. It doesn't really address those issues. And these are critical issues that will help the young person gain the skills that they need to be independent or to know what next. I want to go to, from primary school or high school, I want to go to vocational training, I want to go to tertiary education, I want to go to work. So those kind of preparing the child or the young person to be able to set goals is not always part of our curriculum. So our curriculum focuses more on academics. It doesn't focus on the other areas that are very, very critical. Yes.
All right. So you mentioned something about goals. So I know parents tend to have huge dreams for their children. They imagine the child would be the best pilot, all those. I think it's also good to advise parents that even as they come up with the goals, it's good to make more like achievable or reasonable goals according to their child's ability.
Yes. It's actually not the parents to make goals. It's actually a combination of different players with the young person being a critical person or the stakeholder in this goal setting. Because we tend to see or to set goals for our children. In this case, I emphasize, let the goal setting be student focused. Like the student is the one who's driving the goals. So many parents would come and tell me, I want my child to go to high school, but I don't know where to take them. I want my child to go to vocational training, and they're only 16, for example. But I ask them, what does the child want? Because unless we are able to have that sort of collaborative team working together, we have the parent, we have the child, of the young person, the student. We have now even the support services, the stakeholders, we have the teachers, all come together. But the voice should be the voice of the young person leading the goal setting. And this is what I want to encourage. And for those I have worked with, that is the message I'm bringing across, that it's no longer about us, it's about them, the students. And parents would say sometimes, my child doesn't speak, for example, or my child cannot decide for them. For themselves. That's another challenge of transition, where low expectations is actually making it so challenging to come up with proper transition planning. So you as a parent, when you come with low expectations, it makes it very hard. And even the teachers, for example, or the conflict between the teachers and the parents, where the teachers feel this is the way for the student, and the parents also feel this is the way for our student. Where is the student in this case? So when we place the student at the center of transition planning, we are able now to drive the transition planning in a way that empowers the student from very early age. And this is what we need. Yes.
All right, very good. I know you have really emphasized on the need to involve the child in the whole process, because sometimes parents and teachers tend to make decisions on behalf of the child. However, I think we should also be cognizant of the fact that some students may not be well adapt with making decisions on their own, and probably I'm thinking that's where maybe the parents and teachers to some extent may also come in. But again, going back to our education system, because we are addressing viewers who maybe majority are within our education system. And unlike the CBC now that has different pathways, and even for the CBC, we are yet to experience the junior high school and see how that is going to be for learners with special needs. So I know we still have a challenge with the transition, and even post schools. What opportunities are out there for these students beyond tertiary training and ultimately work? Yes.
Bringing you back, Madam Esther, because I know you're a teacher.
Yes.
And I have to respond to this.
Yes.
Decision making. Yes, I know the teachers want to support the young people in decision making.
Yes.
Or to make the decision on their behalf. But there is that element called, or aspect called supported decision making. This person may not be able to make their own decisions, but what about supporting them to make those decisions? And supporting them doesn't necessarily mean you are the one making the decision on behalf.
Absolutely.
You are just facilitating so that they are able to make that decision. And now the opportunities that are there. I know with transition planning, we focus on post-school options.
Yeah.
For example, we may have vocational training, we may have tertiary education, we may have independent living. You know, finishing school, then you go and try to live on your own.
Yeah.
Then what else do you have? Yes, these are the things that come, or work actually. But on the other hand, we're also looking at this child and seeing exactly what are their interests. Yes, we could talk about work, but how many work opportunities are there for the young people with disability? And as part of my research, when I was doing my master's program, I focused on alternative employment options for the young people. And what is coming up very strongly is the idea of small businesses, micro-enterprise for people with disabilities. And I can tell you for sure, many formal employment options are quite not disability friendly. Not just in our country, but out there. And so we are focusing on how can we also come up with business opportunities done differently from the normal way we know businesses. Now, this is a micro-enterprise that is focused on the interest of the young person. And this is also creating alternative options for people with disabilities, so that we support them in a way that is holistic, and also provide opportunities for them in a place where they have very limited opportunities.
All right. Great insight you're having there. So my only worry is, so you mentioned about early intervention having to do with early transition planning. So what are some of the activities that you would urge parents to do as early as 8 so that they develop the independent living of the child? Because we realize they tend to be so protective of their child, which means they limit them from doing certain things.
So, of course, one of the challenges of transition planning is now the way we overprotect our young people. And that is expected. Because as a parent, you feel this child may not be able to cope in life. So you overprotect them, and you don't give that free space to explore. So we are trying to come up, or the right thing is to start early transition planning, where you put the skills in the curriculum, or that you can adopt the curriculum or adapt it so that it suits the needs of the child. And this is a school, and not for the parents. There is a child, for example, who likes cooking, and it's very common that such a child will not be allowed in the kitchen. So what about you identify the interest of the child, then you engage them. It doesn't matter how good they are at cooking, even if they cook just an egg, but they have that experience. Even if they help with chopping, dicing, and doing that in the kitchen,
Yes.
vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
They can actually participate. So in other words, as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
engage the young person. Engage them when you go to your business,
Yeah.
let them have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
When they're in the kitchen, when they are doing the cleaning, when you are folding clothes after the laundry after washing,
Yeah.
all these activities, they
Mhm.
help them to see the need to use their skills to
Mhm.
perform these activities.
Mm.
And the parents are critical players in transition planning
Yeah.
because they know their child best
Mm.
and they know their interest.
Mm.
And now we as professionals, we just come to explore those interests together with the family.
Mhm.
So engaging the young person in activities that help them to acquire skills, self-determination skills,
Mhm.
that is very important. And also, for example, in our country, we use public transport mostly.
Mm.
Teaching these people to use public transport. And don't fear that they will be, something will happen to them.
Mhm.
Just try to do it in a way that you break it down so that initially you can have the closest person, the most trusted person that this child can actually identify with
Yeah.
to go with them.
Mm.
Then later you try to train this child from stage A to stage B to be able to do that.
Mhm.
It may not be 100% successful, but these are some of the skills that they need to explore,
Yeah.
and we don't know to what extent. We shouldn't limit their capabilities.
Mm.
So we need to do that. And also to do with technology, for example.
Mhm.
We want to teach them how to communicate.
Yeah.
So they may not have the verbal communication,
Mm.
but with the phone you can learn how to SMS.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to say something that people will identify that there is an emergency here,
Yeah.
that this is what you need, but they have typed it on the phone, even if it's just one letter,
Mhm.
that you train that child to know how to type that letter, and whenever you type it, you know this is what it means.
It means, yeah.
So that you are able to use whatever you have
Mm.
to train the young people to be independent and to be able, not necessarily purely dependent,
Yeah.
but at least to be able to perform activities that align to transition in their lives.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, very good. We are really learning, and I believe our viewers are also learning. And James, I want to take you back a little bit on the alternative options that are there for formal employment. And I totally agree that formal employment may not be a very reliable option for persons or for young people or persons with disabilities. And I really like the idea of the micro enterprises. And I know this is something you're really passionate about, and it was part of your thesis. I'm just wondering, apart from identifying the interests and the passion of this child and aligning that to probably a business idea that they would converting that passion into profits, maybe through ideas. I'm looking at the dynamics of a business, what a business entails, and apart from just having the skill, there are these other soft skills that this person needs in order for the business to thrive. So probably if you could just take us through the process of maybe the micro enterprise. So how do we do it? How can it be done differently? Because we know persons with disabilities have been accessing the disability fund for starting small businesses, but many will report that the business did not succeed.
Yeah.
So what is it that needs to be done differently this time round?
Yeah. So actually, research indicates that most of these businesses run by people with disability do not go beyond startup phase, and most of the micro enterprises. And the idea is to change that. So coming up with a framework that starts, it's a cyclic as a process going through various stages. So the first stage is the discovery stage. First of all, you discover the interest of this person. Always, as we said, let's be student focused. So what are their interests? When you discover their interests, and that is where we fail, because it's our interest as adults, not the interest of the child. So we want to do what we feel is right for the child, rather than what the child really needs. So when you discover the interest, and of course what they are very passionate about, then we go through a process called exploration. So we want to explore yes, that is the interest. What are the opportunities that are there that this young person can engage in? So when you explore, then you go to creation. That's another stage. Now you create the business. You have first discovered, you have gone to exploration so that you have it, you have the entrepreneurial focus. Then you come to creation, you create the business, and finally it's the operation, how to operate the business. But this is not being done by this person alone. So as a consultant in this area, what I will do is to form a group. It's the entrepreneur monitoring group. So that there is a group that is working with this young person. And who are the members of the group? The family is always very critical. One family member, the young person is another person here. I mean, another stakeholder here. Then the consultant, the micro-entrepreneur consultant. And also, there is now the person who is experienced in that business. For example, IT. You want, for example, to do software testing. This is the passion, and we have seen this before. This person is interested in software testing. So I don't have any experience in that. So I'll get a volunteer or somebody who wants to help the young person live their dreams, who is in that field, and becomes a member of this group. And when we are working as a team, and those stages of taking this business, then you can be assured that we'll be able to help this person manage the business, do the management, or learn about the management, get the right business skills, and eventually have that business go beyond startup. And this is really our focus area, where we want to focus beyond the normal way of doing business. We are not leaving that business to this young person alone or with their family. So we want a team to work with the person and to ensure that there is a control such that the money that or the profit that is being coming from this business is not used for any other purpose, but it's used to grow the business. So having a team that is monitoring will help to ensure that this business is successful. And going back to also the question we had asked about some of the areas of activities that would help somebody succeed in transition planning, job coaching is very important. So you want the young person to be taught how to have those skills, soft skills like teamwork, and addressing the customers, and that comes under job coaching. And also sometimes it's also good to expose these young people while they are still in school in opportunities of their interest. For example, if somebody is interested in branding a car, they don't wait until it's time for them to leave school to see that sort of business environment. They need to be taken there. They can even volunteer. They can even just have sometimes as what you call internship. They can go there and work for some time. And I know, Madam Esther, you're very good with these cases here. You're very good at that, trying to link the young people with potential business opportunities where they can learn how the business actually takes shapes and how it's done from hands-on experience.
It's actually amazing that you mentioned that, something to do with I call it job shadowing. So if, let's say, a child wants to be a pilot, so you give them the opportunity to come along probably with a pilot, and then from that I'm assuming they'll also see if this dream that I have is possible or not. Interesting. So now that we are specifically talking about special needs, and we realize that the curriculum that the Kenyan education system has probably doesn't accommodate them that much, except for a few schools. I know of KCCL that really molds kids' abilities. So if, let's say, a child wants to be a graphic designer, there is photography being offered at the school. What would you say about that?
Okay. The most important thing is to bring this child to have that experience. And what you call job shadowing, to experience in a way that they get to understand it. And it's a matter of changing our curriculum. And I really respect a school like KCCL that is determined to do things differently. Because we don't have to do things the same way all the time.
Yeah.
And you are not having results. So why don't you do it differently this time?
Yeah.
And see what components can you bring in that can actually give the young people experience in the environment where they are in. And so you invest in opportunities for transition, for part of transition, and with that you are able to inspire and empower the young person to be able to pursue their interests. Yes.
Okay, very good. And I'm just thinking, because I think we really want to understand the concept of micro enterprise, because I'm seeing there's a silver lining for our children with special needs. So probably our viewers who are parents are asking, what would be the minimum capital for starting a micro enterprise? Yes.
Okay, so a micro enterprise, as the name suggests, is a small business. And normally a micro enterprise would need like 50,000 shillings to start a business. But that is globally. In our case, our economy is not at that level. So with the 10,000 shillings, there is something that the young person can do, a small business, even selling the veggies at the Mama Mboga. You don't need more than 10,000 or even 5,000 to start such a business. So if the interest of this person is in that area, then focus on the minimum resources that you have and try to build from there. And of course, I also must say this, with the organization that I'm involved in, Differently Talented Society of Kenya, we are working in collaboration with the National Industrial Training Authority.
Okay.
And of course, through the funds that we have been given by the Australian government through a program called Directed Aid Program to empower young autistic adults with skills that we help them focus on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And through training at NITA, after the training, they also, and during the training, they be taught how to start small businesses and not just be taught in a class setup. They be taught in a business environment. How can they also initiate these businesses, the micro enterprise, and where they be given the little capital to support them initiate the businesses.
Okay.
So,
Okay, our guests, sorry we'll have to cut you short, but we'll pick it up from there after we come from the break. Yes, so our viewers, it's been a very engaging program and we are very honored to have you with us. So if you want to reach us, you can reach us on our different social media handles at the Facebook, DGTV Kenya, Instagram at DGTV Kenya, and on Twitter at DGTV Kenya. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Thank
Hakikisha unaendelea kufuata maagizo ya serikali dhidi ya kupambana na janga la korona ili kazi iendelee.
Kuanzia asubuhi hii mati na beba raia. So kuwa safe ni lazima.
Kazi safi ni kuendelea kuhakikisha mimi niko safe na customers wangu pia wako safe.
Kuna vitu lazima tuzingatie. Kabla works iendelee, safety lazima.
Safety yangu na ya community yangu ni jukumu langu. Tuokoe maisha.
Vaa mask inavyostahili. Nawa mikono kwa maji na sabuni au tumia sanitizer ya mikono. Usikaribiane na wenzako. Funika mdomo unapopiga chafya na kukohoa. Kwa maelezo zaidi, piga simu kwa nambari 719 au bonyeza *719# komesha corona, okoa maisha.
Berean Christian Community Church invites you to our Sunday service. We reach the lost, build community, grow disciples, serve our neighbors, and in all things, worship the Almighty God. Join us for Sunday services from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. You can also catch us live at DGTV and on Facebook at DGTV Kenya. We are located at Uzuri Institute Grounds, Thika. God bless you as you come.
Audio welcome back. I am glad you did not move an inch from your seat because ideally I think you really are interested in knowing what's the plan for my child after high school or post-school. All right. Remember again, if you feel like you need to reach us on our SMS lines, you can also get us on 0791 300 105. If you want to reach us on SMS, you can do that on 0791 300 105. All right, back to you again. So before we went on the break, you were talking about the alternative employment option, in this case, micro enterprise. I love that you mentioned something about looking out for the interest of the child. All right, so you mentioned a figure that I'm imagining a person probably back in the village, 10,000 shillings. That might be probably on the higher side. So are there any other options? For example, let's say a child, there are those things that they can easily access from home without having to invest, let's say, 10,000 shillings. Are there any alternative?
Okay, of course, as a micro enterprise, that's a business.
Yeah.
And I was putting it that you don't need a lot of money to be able to start one. And I gave an example from Mboga, where you don't need 10,000 actually to start a grocery shop. With the little you have, even 1,000 shillings, you may be able to buy a few items.
Yeah.
Let's say keeping rabbits, you can have a few rabbits.
Yeah.
If that's the interest of the young person, you can have a few chickens.
Yeah.
And it's about what is available. And we always look at the challenges as obstacles that you can overcome, rather than as an excuse for not empowering this young person. So for me, there shouldn't be any excuse for a person who wants to start a business not to, because we just become creative.
Yeah.
And if that's their interest, if they love plants, we can start by planting a few seedlings, tree seedlings, and which they can actually sell, you know. And you start with the local community, see what they need. And of course, again, it should be within the interest of the young person.
Okay.
Because whenever we tell this, and I have seen this, in most cases, even at schools, or even parents, they have very low expectations. And the first thing they will tell you, I don't think my son or daughter can do this.
Yeah.
And then the question is, why do you think they can't do that? Is it because you think they're too severely disabled? And when looking at this person, they can do something at least. And for those cases where, of course, absolutely, because of the physical limitations, they are not able to do that, then that is when we say we work closely with the parent. But again, the business should be owned by this person, so that we don't have the parent or the other family member thinking that this business is theirs. The business belongs to the young person. And we are trying to emphasize that whatever is available, let this person, the student, be come in the front.
Okay.
Because it's about the person. And we walk alongside him or be behind them, support them, but not really take charge. Yes.
Okay, very good. I'm just thinking loudly that even as we talk about transition planning, is it only in the context of training and work or businesses, or does it also involve probably transition even to a different phase of life, like getting married, getting a family? I'm trying to put my shoes in the legs of that parent, and who is also wondering, does it end at the business, or does the transition planning also go beyond the context of training and work?
That's very good, Madam Esther. Yes, transition planning is not about just work. It's also about relationships, for example. And we teach social skills as part of transition planning. We teach, you realize that many young people with disability, they have quite limited social scope in terms of social relationships. Because due to the challenges that come up with the disability, they tend to also experience challenges making friends, and especially those with neurodevelopmental disabilities. They are not able to sustain and build and sustain relationships. And they need to be trained as part of transition planning. And I must say this, that many young people with neurodevelopmental disabilities tend to be very socially isolated because the few relationships they have in school, the moment they exit school, those relationships are not there. So you are left with your child, this young person has no friends at all. So as part of transition planning, we also look at how can we also train the young people to be able to build relationships. And I have seen a few, well known to me, where they have even married, and they have settled down, they have families, they have been given some support by their families, and they are happy. And I'm sure you as a parent, you want your child to lead as normal life as possible. And that can only happen with proper planning. So that if this child is interested in a relationship, we see how we can support them. We teach them skills that we have built that relationship. So transition planning is not just about work. It's not about training. It's also about the holistic needs of this young person, including relationships and social skills, and even mental health support, because they will experience anxieties at some point, especially many people with neurodevelopmental disabilities. When you tell them now you are moving from one stage to another, that can bring a lot of anxiety, which can lead to mental health issues. So we also look at how can they cope with unexpected changes in their lives. Yeah.
All right. So I'm assuming we have to come up with a document, more like a transition plan,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So what does the transition plan entail? What does the document have?
Okay.
The goals.
Yes. Remember, the transition planning is about the skills that this young person need to be taught, so that they are able to cope in their post-school life.
Yeah.
So yes, the document, of course, we identify those skills, and you set goals. What do you want to achieve? You have started at 14, so this child is still in school. So you set goals. By this time, you have the short and long-term goals.
Okay.
This is what you want to achieve. And it also the document also has the interest of the child. So it really focuses on the interest and what are the activities that are going to help attain those goals. So those are part of the transition plan. And also, what is the child doing at the moment? So this again, you build on what they are doing at the moment.
Okay.
So this again needs to be part of the document. And of course, the input now coming from the parents also, other stakeholders like the teachers. In some schools, they even have a psychologist, and they even have job coach, or they have people, other professionals or service providers who can actually share their skills, so that this or whatever they are working with the young person is also part of the transition planning.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. So I'm just wondering, the transition planning sounds very much like the individualized education plan.
Yeah.
So probably it's for people who are asking, what's the difference between an IEP and an ITP, individualized education plan and an individualized transition plan. So maybe what are the nuances, what are the differences?
So, okay, with the IEP, individualized education plan, it's focusing more on the strength of the young person and in terms of why they are still in school, and focusing on those the way the strengths can actually be used to overcome the weaknesses. Because yes, you have the strength, and also there are the weaknesses. So you whatever is happening in school, then you align that to the goals that you want this child to achieve within a particular time. But now the transition planning is extending beyond school, and both documents actually they really are very similar. Only that transition plan is focusing more beyond school. into the adult life of the young person.
Okay.
So it's bringing more of the skills that the young person need to learn, so that they can actually be prepared now as they step out of the school. But now IEP is again what is being done within that time in school. Yeah.
Great. So we are going to go on a short pop-up, all right? So I'm going to ask you if these are appropriate for secondary goals or not. So you'll tell me yes or no. So I'm going to use my name because I do not want to be held accountable. So Effie will take the courses needed to graduate from high school. Is that a post-secondary goal or no?
Take the course, sorry, I didn't get that.
Effie will take the courses needed to graduate from high school after or during high school.
So this is actually within during high school, continued to after school.
All right.
Yeah.
Ready for the second one?
Yeah.
Okay. Effie is thinking about joining the Air Force.
Yes. This is actually during.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And lastly, we have Effie might live with her parents or live on her own, post-secondary or before.
This again is happening during and post-secondary.
Okay.
Because some of these goals, you actually started from the time of transition planning, when the child is in school, then continuing to post-school. So they kind of, they are starting without a break. So it's a continuous process. Because you are preparing, it's not like you reach a point now, say, that has ended.
Yes.
Now we are starting, and you're like, it started even when the child was still in school.
Okay.
And you know, in some countries, other countries, what they do, and I saw this in Australia, they have a program called Next Step Program.
Okay.
So, which is a bridge between our school and post-school options. It's a very good program, and I'm sure maybe cases here is doing this, where you are preparing the young person to move from school, and you know very well that they may not have acquired what is enough to enable them to go to the next stage.
Yes.
So you actually have those skills that are specific to now prepare them for post-school options. So they may decide, I want to go to uni after my secondary school, but for you to cope in uni, you need some skills. Even how to register courses, for example.
Yeah.
They won't teach you to do that.
Yes.
So you start through the Next Step Program. Yes. So it's a very critical program that acts as a bridge between school and post-school options. Yes.
Okay, interesting. So I'm just wondering, in our context, the Next Step Program, so would it be implemented in primary school or in high school? And considering that most children with special needs don't actually transition to the secondary level, or rather the transition to the secondary level is very minimal. I'm looking at maybe children with autism. As much as we have the autism units in the primary, they are not there in the secondary level. So I know there's a lot of dropping out after the primary level, unless maybe they end up in a vocational school or center. But the question is, at what point do you do the next step?
So you see, the next step is coming up towards the end of the planning you have been doing in school. So now, they may have stayed in primary school until they reach an age where now they have to move on to the next program. So for example, you can't hold somebody who is 20 years and you're still holding them in primary school.
Yeah.
So now it's a time, you started your transition plan, and the young person has been in primary school for all this time. Now you need to prepare them, because you know now the options that are there, they're already adults. So they may not go to secondary school. So they want to go to vocational option. But you don't just tell them now go to vocational option. By the time they are sending them to vocational option, you have been preparing them.
Yeah.
But also I need to emphasize this, that there is always that mentality in our schools that a young autistic person, for example, they can't go to secondary school. And
Yeah.
I've seen that. You know, a parent recently called me, and her son is 16 years, is about to do KCP, and they are really wanting to send him to secondary, to vocational school or institution. And I asked the parent, is that what the young person needs? No, the young person says he just wants to be in school. So at 16, why should you take somebody who is at 16 to vocational training, and yet they still long to go to secondary school?
Yeah.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Because I think I'm just trying to put myself into the shoes of that parent, because I think the fact of the matter is when it comes to the secondary level, especially for persons on the autism spectrum, and under the 844 system, the options are very, very limited. And actually that's a very big gap, maybe that needs to be addressed at policy level. And you realize that unlike maybe other schools like KCCA or schools that are offering the international curriculum that may be very, very accommodative for persons with autism, our typical secondary schools, I'm yet to identify any that is, first of all, admitting young persons with autism who have just graduated from the primary level and to offer them the necessary accommodations. I think it's a big challenge that nobody seems to be addressing.
That's true. And I'll tell you,
Yes.
this is when we need to create awareness.
Yeah.
Because even the vocational institutions are quite limited.
Absolutely.
So where do we leave this child?
Yeah.
So we create awareness by making the education sector actually, or the stakeholders there, understand that, yes, I have an autistic son who has just done their KCPE, and it didn't matter how they performed, because we are talking about 100% transition. So where do people with disability come in? Do we have judged them that they are not supposed to go to the next level? So in this case, it's about policy, as Madam Minister, you have pointed it out. We need to come up with policies that really emphasize that even young people with disability actually they should benefit from that 100% enrollment to transition to high school. Yeah, because when you put the young person who is at 16 in vocational training, that was not their choice at that time.
Okay.
Their choice was to go to secondary school. So it's upon our, we identify actually schools that actually want to be more accommodative to these people. And you can only do that if we create more awareness. Because that's where we have always failed as a government, and of course the education ministry, limiting people with neurodevelopmental disabilities and making assumption that they cannot go beyond primary school. They should. It's their right. Yes.
Amazing. So what you're saying is there's a disconnect between allowing the kids to go and explore opportunities out there.
Yes, because it's us who make that decision.
Okay.
It's not them. So for me, I always emphasize, it's with every planning should be student focused.
Okay.
So it's about the interest of the student. It's not about you and for my interest or the parents' interest. It's what the student wants. So that for us is to guide them, to support them, live their dreams. And I'll also tell you that some of the private schools, what they do, when it comes to, and don't be surprised, this is what is happening right now. They're about to do KCP.
Yeah.
So autistic or young people with candidates with developmental disabilities are being registered in other exam centers away from their usual school, so that they don't lower their main score.
Oh wow.
And
very
that is
unfortunate.
actually that is an abuse of their rights. It's actually you're violating their rights to education and to pursue their dreams. So at that, the government should actually have this early enough and stop it. Yes.
All right. So we have talked about transition plans. So you as a professional, probably boiling down to the duties, what a family is meant to do to ensure that the transition plan is successful, what the child should do, and the teachers, and probably everyone that relates to the child. So how do you ensure that there's a successful transition of a person with disability?
Yeah, first of all, I keep on emphasizing that for the child, or the role of the child,
Okay.
the transition plan should be student focused.
Okay.
Or should be child focused. And what I mean is that the interest, the aspirations, the skills, the strength of the child should always be the driving force towards transition planning. Then the family. The family is the one that knows the child best.
Yeah.
So I would expect the mother or the father of this child to tell me, as a transition planner, what are the interests of the child.
Okay.
So that we start from there. And also the resources that are needed for transition planning. It's actually the family that bear those resources. And exposing this child to opportunities for transition planning. What we have talked about. Remember, we mentioned about the issue of activity. You want to train the child to use the class, for example. Who is going to train this child to use the class? It's the parent. So we are talking about involvement in all these activities. So the role of the parent of the family is very important. Making transition possible, all those activities that the parents should do. Then the other players like the special education professionals, the transition planner, those ones are also trying to now anchor the transition plan into the curriculum. Or the child is being the one that you are using to support this child in school, so that they get the skills that are taught by teachers who also know how to do it. So they use the strategies that are appropriate to the needs of the child. Yes.
All right, very good. That's the family. What about the child himself? What role does the child have to play in this whole planning?
Yes. So the role of the child, when it's student focused, so we expect the child to participate in the transition planning. So they tell us about their interest. They tell us about what they want to do, their strength and all that. And it may not come verbally. So we are able to now use alternative ways of communication to identify the interest of this person. So basically the role of the young person, remember, they are the center of the transition planning. So what they tell us are their interest is what will guide in the transition planning. And I have said some are non-verbal. So we also want to use other strategies to be able to obtain that information. And of course, any qualified special education teacher will be able to identify other methods that you can use to communicate with the young person. And in this case, I'm saying those who are non-verbal because I don't want somebody to give an excuse that my child is non-verbal, so it's me to make decisions for them. Then there are the people who are able to carry the transition plan, to implement it, together, of course, with the other team. So they're the ones we tell them, we have together set this goal for you, that today you'll be learning how to use public transport. So the young person is the one that is going to use the public transport. So the role of the young person is actually to implement the transition plan that is being done for them. Yeah.
Very good. Interesting. You keep emphasizing on the need to have the whole process child-centered, or not necessarily a child, because here we are actually talking about
student focused.
Yes, student focused. But I'm relating to a story of a mother I met yesterday, and she was trying to enroll her child, who is 18 years, back to school. The child had exited from the school system, and of course, it's been around 3 years. The child has been at home, but now they feel there's need for the child to come back for a transition from, of course, school to work or business. And one of the things that this mother kept telling me is that the only challenge with my daughter is that today she'll say she's interested in cooking. Tomorrow it's going to be music. The other day it's going to be cookery. So it becomes very hard to actually establish what is this that this child can do. And even the cookery, she'll do cookery for a week, then she loses interest, pick something new and loses interest. So in such a scenario, how do we help the parents to really know this is what my child wants to do? Because I'm imagining by the time they're getting to investing 50,000 and above in an interest that maybe this child won't hold for long. So how do the team now comes in to address such challenges?
That's true. Thank you, Madam Esther. So over time, I know it happens in many cases that we have different interests. You and me, I know in your life you have had similar situations.
Absolutely.
You have had different interests. But later, at some point, you will pursue specific passion, but still explore those other options. We have many people in their careers who are also interested in other skills, for example, cooking. And you're not cooking just because you have to cook for your family. You're also cooking because it's part of your passion. So you have people baking, doing such stuff, and they become professional in that field. So, and this is because they are exposed to different areas of interest. In other words, what I want to say, interest should not always just be, it has to be this, to be specific. One can try different interests based on what they really want to do. So you can invest, for example, in one specific area, let's say in IT, for example. But at the same time, the person likes doing ceramics and pottery in this case. So can they also explore different interests and invest in those different interests? And with the time, this person will be able to show greater interest. And if we are doing transition planning, for example, I don't know whether you ever did transition planning, you are able to monitor what interest comes first compared to others. Because I also find the same situation parents saying, and you will discover through the discovery phase of the micro enterprise we talked about, you'll be able to discover that this particular interest is stronger than the other interest.
All right, very good.
Focus more on that.
On that, so the dominant interest, because they may have various interests, but look for the most dominant and the most outstanding. Okay, very good. So it's been a very insightful segment, and I believe our viewers and especially parents and educators in special needs have learned a thing or two about transition planning. I know this is a very broad topic. We may not exhaust it in one sitting. So God helping us, we do believe that we'll still have you back here, because I know if there's something that parents are really grappling with, it's the issue of transition. And I think we have a duty to enlighten and sensitize the parents, stakeholders, and what is it that we have out there for these children, because they all also need to be included when it comes to planning and when it comes to transition. No child should finish primary school and go back to the house because we don't have options. So it's been good having you here, Jimmy, and we look forward to hosting you again. So our viewers, unfortunately, we have to come to the end of this session. It's been great having you, and we are glad that you have made DGTV a TV of your choice. And in case you still want to reach us, you can reach us on our different social media platforms and even on our SMS line. So until next week, see you then. Bye-bye.